It's no secret that Hollywood is one hell of a cutthroat business, and acting in particular isn't a profession for the weak of stomach. With so many people competing for parts, winning a role in a major movie is a serious victory, and one most actors wouldn't want to give up without good reason. But naturally, things become trickier when actors become more famous, and might find themselves having to choose between several projects, because there's just not enough time to star in them all. And so despite initially signing up to appear in a movie, it's common for actors to later drop out due to scheduling issues. But of course, that's not the only reason. Sometimes creative issues abound during the process, or the actor simply loses interest in the part for whatever reason. It happens on the regular, and it recently happened with these actors, who all just bailed on huge upcoming movies for one reason or another. I'm Ellie from Whatculture, and let's take a look at these actors who just quit huge movies. Starting with Cosmo Jarvis, The Odyssey. Christopher Nolan is able to assemble some of the most enviable casts Hollywood has ever seen, and his new Greek fantasy epic The Odyssey is certainly no exception. Among the names comprising the supremely stacked cast was Shogun star Cosmo Jarvis, whose precise role, like the majority of his castmates, was kept firmly under wraps. However, at the start of July, Jarvis was announced to have exited the film due to a scheduling conflict with the biographical drama Young Stalin, resulting in Logan Marshall Green being swiftly announced as his replacement. Now, while it's surely a nightmare scenario to have to quit a Christopher Nolan film due to scheduling issues, it's fair to assume that his part in The Odyssey was probably a small one, given that he ducked out of the shoot barely a month before filming on the epic wrapped up. On the other hand, Young Stalin is a meatier starring role that likely pays better and presents some serious awards potential. It's a hell of a tough call to make, but he probably made the right one, all things considered. Taylor Russell, The Thomas Crown Affair. Michael B. Jordan is currently in the midst of shooting his remake of romantic heist film The Thomas Crown Affair, previously remade in 1999 with Pierce Brosnan and Rene Russo, which he is both directing and starring in. Taylor Russell was originally cast in the role of the female lead, and actually remained as a member of the cast until shooting started. But mere days after cameras began rolling, Russell suddenly left the film over apparent creative differences. Naturally, rumours soon began to swirl about possible personal issues between Jordan and Russell on set, given how uncommon it is for creative differences to result in an actor quitting a film after having already shot scenes. Soon enough, Adria Arjona was brought in as Russell's replacement, who, in the very least, seems like a fine fit for the part from her work on last year's Hitman alone. Regardless, it'll certainly be interesting to see if we hear any more about the alleged behind-the-scenes drama in the lead-up to the film's March 5th, 2027 release date. Jesse Eisenberg, The Social Network Part 2. Now, to be fair, Jesse Eisenberg had never officially signed on to reprise the role of Facebook co-founder Mark Zuckerberg in The Social Network Part 2. However, he was nevertheless widely expected to return, especially considering his previous performance in the role netting him a Best Actor Oscar nomination. And he had previously stated his desire to play Zuckerberg again several times over the years. However, with the sequel to David Fincher's Oscar-winning drama now actually happening, Eisenberg has elected not to return. Earlier this year, Eisenberg stated that he no longer wants to be associated with Zuckerberg. And while some reports suggest that Eisenberg could be holding out for more money, this philosophical shift likely informs his decision to step back from the sequel. At present, Jeremy Strong has been tipped to replace Eisenberg, a terrific choice, even if it's undeniably disappointing that we won't have the continuity of Eisenberg reprising the role. Sydney Sweeney, The Mask of the Red Death. At the start of the year, it was announced that A24 were developing a revisionist and darkly comedic adaptation of Edgar Allan Poe's short story The Mask of the Red Death, which revolves around a prince trying to avoid a deadly plague by hiding away in his abbey. Sydney Sweeney was soon enough said to be in talks for the lead role, with shooting set to start either this year or early next. However, by June, Sweeney had quit the film, reportedly due to scheduling conflicts, as she's currently shooting the third season of Euphoria and will star in the live-action Gundam movie later in the year. The production has found quite the stellar replacement though, with Anora's Mikey Madison, soon enough swooping in to play what is reportedly a dual role of twin sisters. A24 and Madison certainly sounds like a winning combination, and with reports suggesting that this adaptation is incredibly out there, The end result should at least be totally unforgettable. Oscar Isaac, Behemoth. Fresh off the success of Andor Season 2, Tony Gilroy will next write and direct Behemoth, a drama about a cellist who makes music for movies, though details beyond this are firmly under wraps. Hopefully we'll learn more about the particulars of what Behemoth is soon enough, because with Gilroy involved, it's reasonable to assume there's far more to this than the vague synopsis suggests. Oscar Isaac was announced to be playing the lead role back in March, reuniting with Gilroy after previously playing a small role in the Gilroy-directed The Bourne Legacy. However, as of August, Isaac had left the project due to scheduling issues. Hardly a surprising outcome given the actor's stacked slate at present. But Gilroy found a killer replacement with Isaac's good pal, Pedro Pascal. Now, even though there's much talk about Pascal being overexposed as an actor as of late, given that he's starring in so many things right now, in terms of pure acting talent, he's a dynamic choice to take over from Isaac, which is really all that matters. Idina Menzel and Kristen Chenoweth, Wicked for Good. One of the most memorable movie cameos of the past year took place in Wicked, when Idina Menzel and Kristen Chenoweth, who originated the roles of Elphaba and Galinda on stage, briefly played the leaders of the Emerald City Players during the One Short Day sequence. This was enough of a crowd-pleasing moment that many fans assumed that Menzel and Chenoweth would also be appearing in the upcoming second part of the story, Wicked for Good. Because honestly, why wouldn't they? But in a recent interview, Chenoweth confirmed that neither she nor Menzel opted to return for another cameo in the sequel, saying, quote, "Idina and I feel really good about it. It's their time. We had our moment and we were very honoured they included us, but it's their turn." Now, while we can't know for sure that the duo were actually offered cameos in Wicked for Good, one can't imagine the filmmakers not wanting to include them again. Reading between the lines here, it feels like Chenoweth and Menzel wanted to pass the baton and let the main cast have the spotlight all to themselves this time around. Channing Tatum, Riley Keough, Stephen Yeun, and Zoe Kravitz, Alpha Gang. Alpha Gang is a new sci-fi comedy from Sasquatch Sunset filmmakers David Zellner and Nathan Zellner, revolving around a group of aliens which arrive on Earth with the intent to destroy it, only to find themselves overwhelmed with human emotions. Last year, the film's absolutely stacked cast was confirmed, including Cate Blanchett, who also produces, alongside Channing Tatum, Dave Bautista, Stephen Yeun, Zoe Kravitz, Léa Seydoux, and Riley Keough. However, at the end of May, the ensemble saw a massive shake-up as scheduling conflicts caused Tatum, Keough, Yeun, and Kravitz to exit the movie, with Chris Pine, Lily Rose Depp, Kelvin Harrison Jr., and Doona Bae soon enough being drafted in as their replacements. Now, that's still a supremely strong cast any way you slice it, even if losing so many name actors in one fell swoop probably wasn't the best look for the production. Considering the talent the Zellners have attracted to their new project, though, one can assume it's got quite the script. Alicia Vikander, Remain. One of the strangest and most intriguing projects from a major director in production right now is Remain, a supernatural romantic thriller from M. Night Shyamalan with a story co-written by The Notebook's author Nicholas Sparks. Alicia Vikander was originally announced as the female lead, to star opposite Jake Gyllenhaal as a mysterious woman called Wren. But mere weeks after she joined the project, Vikander was announced to have exited the film due to a scheduling conflict. It took Shyamalan mere days to find a replacement, however, with Bridgerton's Phoebe Dynevor swiftly being drafted in to take the role. Now, while it's a shame we won't see Vikander in Remain, especially given her relatively low acting profile in recent years, it's a massive win for the talented Dynevor, and marks by far her biggest movie role to date. Whether Shyamalan and Sparks will manage to cook up something good between them, though, is another matter altogether. Mikey Madison, Star Wars Starfighter. We know that Sean Levy's Star Wars Starfighter will star Ryan Gosling as a hero who is tasked with protecting a child, all while being chased down by a female villain. Levy's first choice for said villain was Anora Oscar winner Mikey Madison. And given the tendency for recent Oscar winners to command hefty paydays for their first splashy post-Oscar blockbuster roles, it was largely assumed to be a done deal. But a few days later, Madison was revealed to have walked away, with follow-up reports suggesting that it came down to issues over pay. Soon thereafter, however, Mia Goth was announced as Madison's replacement, A frankly terrific choice, enough that it's really hard to lament Madison turning the part down much at all. Good for Madison for knowing her worth though, and not merely taking the Star Wars role because that's the sort of thing you're supposed to do once you've won an Oscar and become a bona fide A-lister. And finally, Ed Harris, Top Gun 3. Though it's still very much in the early stages of development, we know that a sequel to the surprise mega hit Top Gun Maverick is in development, with Tom Cruise and much of the film's cast expected to return. However, one of the more notable cast members has already ruled out the possibility of running it back, with Ed Harris immediately dismissing the idea of returning before the project has even gained much momentum. Harris had a brief role in Maverick as Rear Admiral Chester "Hammer" Kane, and when recently asked about coming back to reprise the role in Top Gun 3, he bluntly revealed his lack of interest. Harris said, quote, "Oh, I doubt it. Yeah, no, I don't see why they would ask me." While the actor added that he had a good time working on Maverick, it was such a thankless part that nobody could really blame him for having little interest in doing it all over again.